Hi, and welcome to Something by Brian. I'm Brian, and I went and saw Venom Let There Be Carnage, so I'ma talk about it. Full disclosure, I'm a bit of a Marvel fan, and particularly Spider-Man and his world and Rogue Gallery holds a special place in my heart. I grew up with the amazing animated series from the 90s, currently rewatching it on Disney Plus actually, and loving every second of it. So back when Sony announced a Venom movie, separate from Spider-Man, due to all the legal mumbo-jumbo stuff with Marvel Studios and all that, I was very skeptical, since I believed Venom is intrinsically tied to the webhead. I'm still, despite being 2 movies deep, partial to that belief. Then me and the missus went with a couple of friends to see Venom in the cinema back in 2018 with a bad hangover. Maybe not the best decision, but I'd still argue that Spider-Man 3 is the best hangover flick ever, so why wouldn't Venom's second outing on the big screen be the same? I must admit though, that I found the first installment a bit all over the place, and the humorous relationship between Brock and his symbiote a bit off-putting. Because to me, Venom has always been this huge, imposing and threatening being, so I wasn't too impressed with the first Venom movie. But now I have had time to get used to that relationship and the sort of comedy they went for and can appreciate it more. Also, I saw the trailers before I went and saw this movie and therefore knew they went, if possible, even harder on the comedy, and because of that I could expect more comedy and more banter between Eddie and Venom and adjust my expectations accordingly. So with all my biases out of the way, we can get on with it. To quickly recap what Let There Be Carnage is about before I start reviewing. The story picks up a year and a half after the first one ended. Eddie's career has seen better days and his personal life is dictated by his alien symbiote's constant craving for either human heads, attention, or simply respect and recognition. By some lucky coincidence, Eddie Brock is the only person the notorious serial killer Cletus Cassidy will talk to, which leads to some success in Brock's professional life, however it has dire consequences for his personal one. That's the spoiler-free edition at least. And with the briefest runtime a superhero movie has had since 2007's Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, there isn't all that much story to cover. Not necessarily a bad thing though. It results in a movie with absolutely no fat. Nothing could be cut from this really. And the briskness of it is actually sort of refreshing compared to the horde of almost 3-hour-long superhero adventures we've been getting more and more of. However, it almost feels too short at points. Some characters' relationships and motifs get too little time to develop, while others get too much. But overall, the story is easy to follow, without plot holes, and pretty engaging. As stated earlier, this Tom Hardy casting got me hopeful way back when, and his performance is a huge draw from the first film. And he returns in this and once again fully gives it his all. It's a very physical performance, and a lot of the time he's performing for and to no one, which must be a hard thing to do, and he does it very well. His motion capture and voice work as Venom has gotten more extensive for the sequel, and at points I thought Venom kinda sorta sounded like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, but I've seen that movie an innumerable amount, so I think that might just be to my ears. Tom Hardy is once again joined by Michelle Williams, and like the first installment, I don't really appreciate her character, and I don't think the two of them have the best on-screen chemistry. Not horrible or anything, just not that great. That being said, she did have one of the more memorable scenes in this new one, which was very fun. As the end credit scene of the first one promised, Woody Harrelson joins the cast as Cletus Cassidy, one of Marvel's most violent and extreme characters, once he joins forces with the Red Symbiote and becomes Carnage. He portrays him as this larger-than-life religious figure with an eerie, calm aura, and Woody is just always fun to watch. I like the scenes between Eddie and Cletus way more than the scenes between Carnage and Venom, I must admit. I like the design of Carnage, but I feel like he could have been redder, and I'm not really sure how I feel about the voice of Carnage yet. I think I have to see it again before passing judgment, but I missed the sort of shrill voice from the animated show from the 90s. I love Naomi Harris, but she is very underutilized in this, but by the looks of it she had fun. But I would have liked her character to be a bit more fleshed out. She felt very much like a goal for another character rather than a human being herself. Stephen Graham was also new to the cast in this classic mean cop role, who's reluctant to help Brock but also needs his help to further his case. I liked their dynamic a lot and thought he was very believable in the various interactions he had with everybody. I'm interested to see where his character will go if they continue this franchise any further. I think Andy Serkis did a fine job directing this. Nothing too extraordinary or bold, but his experience with mocap and performance capture technology must have helped a lot while producing this. And if they were to make a third installment, I wouldn't mind if Serkis returned to the directing chair. Because the movie looks great. A bit too dark at times, but the CGI is great. And Venom and Carnage both looks great. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the look of the floaty Venom head whenever he and Eddie needs a face-to-face, but technically it looks good. And likewise, I sometimes thought that the tentacles coming out of the back of Carnage felt a bit off. That's the best way to describe it. But they looked great. Just the consistency of how much Carnage symbiote was where confused me at times. His size in general confused me a bit throughout the entire movie. His theme was pretty cool though, the first time we see him in all his glory and he wreaks havoc. But otherwise I didn't really notice the music at all, neither the score nor the soundtrack. Lil Sims had a cool little cameo and her music is stellar, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, overall I had fun with this movie, and think I ended up enjoying it more than the first one, by quite a bit. The jokes were a bit better. Carnage is a more fun and compelling villain than Riot, but we need to stop making symbiotes fight symbiotes. It isn't interesting enough visually. And as stated earlier, I kinda appreciated the briskness of it. It actually sort of feels like a superhero movie that could have released back in the mid-noughts right alongside Rise of the Silver Surfer, but please understand that sentiment as the compliment it was meant as, and not as some backhanded shade. I enjoyed Venom Let There Be Carnage, and I'm looking forward to see where this is going. Now, spoiler stuff. Holy shit, that end credit scene might have been the best end credit stinger ever. I know we've seen the trailer for No Way Home, and it already has confirmed some pretty bonkers rumors, but to see Tom Hardy Venom transported into the MCU, mwah, chef's kiss. That being said, I think it will be weird to see this Venom interact with Tom Holland's Spidey, since this symbiote apparently didn't need to bond with Peter Parker to get all those delicious superpowers, and therefore was never rejected by Peter, planting the seeds for that wonderfully hateful relationship. Likewise, we've never seen this Eddie Brock being bested by Peter. Yeah, I don't know. I'm both excited and anxious for how this is going to play out. However, I hope that somewhere in the MCU, Woody Harrelson's Cletus Cassidy is running around murdering folks, just waiting to get some more symbiote offshoot attached to him. Because I'm not done with Woody as Cletus, and I'd love to see Carnage in the MCU. They do have a bad habit with killing all their villains. Anyways, go watch Venom Let There Be Carnage if you enjoyed the first one and want more scenery chewing Hardy, talking and fighting with himself. It's a good time. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked the drawing, consider liking the video, and if you liked the video, consider subscribing. Until next time, take care.